So I think the main question first would be, what systems do you have on your house?
So we have pretty much everything we could think of. So we have a geothermal ground source heat pump to heat the house, and we'll be able to cool it. And then we have photovoltaic solar panels and solar hot water panels. So, yeah, so it covers a lot of our electric needs and all our heat and most of our hot water.
And what about the efficiency, the efficiency additions you put on the house?
Yeah, so for efficiency, we've built these interior storm windows for all the windows, and we've had the house air sealed, and so foam insulation on the basement sill, or the foundation sill, and then more insulation in the attic. So we've made it as tight as we can without replacing all the doors and windows and siding and everything.
Can you explain really quickly what you did on your windows, because that's really neat, and sort of the costs associated with the
yeah. So
ones you built?
I can't take credit for it because I found it on the website. In Maine, there's a group that has all the plans on their website for these interior storm windows, and they're just simple 1-inch pine frames that you have to measure, of course, to fit each window, and then you just put sticky tape on the back, foam tape, that allows them to just friction fit into the window frames, and then you cover it with the clear shrinkable plastic that they sell for sealing windows in the winter. So here's one that's on there. So yeah, I forget what it comes out to for each window, but it's probably just $10 or so with the supplies. Yeah, it's mostly the time that goes into it, but you really notice a big difference. So it's definitely cheaper than new windows.
Cool. You guys want to ask some questions?
All of my questions have been answered. One is, what information would you pass on to someone else considering putting these energy sources into their homes?
Oh yeah, it's a good question.
I think I would say don't initially be afraid of the cost, because there are some incentives out there, tax incentives and local incentives, and also if you have a little bit of money up front, if you work the numbers, you sometimes can figure out that it ends up being more cost effective in the long run. Initially we didn't think there would be any way we could afford, or it would be cost effective to do the geothermal heating system, but in the end it really made sense.
So I think the biggest question of all is, why did you do it?
Because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of the decisions I make, I try to think about, what if everyone made the same decision I did? There's so many of us living in this world, and so all of our impacts get multiplied by so much, and so we tried to decide, which way. We thought about building a new house, and we thought if we did that, we'd try to make it, one of these. I'm really excited about the idea of these houses that are, net zero energy houses. We knew that wouldn't be possible with an old house like this unless we put more money into it than it probably is worth. It'd probably be cheaper to start over than to try to completely change this house to be totally airtight. But yeah, in the end we decided, this is the one way we could come up with that we could, be as close to net zero energy on the house as possible. But yeah, I know not everyone can afford to do it, and it's not practical for every person, but we figured that this was it's in a way, it's kind of a donation, I guess, to the environment when you think about it, but it's one way we could do our part to be self-reliant in terms of most of our energy use.
Okay. Other questions? Anyone? All right.
Is there very many companies doing the geothermal?
That was one thing that was a little bit frustrating, because there aren't that many that do it, and geothermals are really, from what I've learned, that's actually a good point, because that's something that people should keep in mind if they look into geothermal, is from what I've learned is there's a lot of different ways to do it. Like you've seen, we have the open loop system with just the groundwater, and other people have a closed loop system with the antifreeze solution. And different parts of the country, different things work better than others. And there's a lot of people getting into it now because it's getting so popular. But not all the systems work as well, and so you don't get as good of efficiency if the installer doesn't do it quite right and they don't really know what they're doing. Like there's simple things our installer was saying that they didn't really know what they were doing, like if they had too many bends in the pipes of where the water was coming and going from the well, that can slow down your efficiency enough that you lose a lot of the gains you're supposed to be getting because the water gets slowed down, the pump has to work more, the little things like that. So there are getting to be more people doing it because it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, we actually ended up going with a guy who's based out of I think he was in the Albany, New York area, or I'm not sure exactly, but so he had a little ways to come, but he does a lot of work throughout Vermont. So, but he was one of the few people I talked to who had, he's been doing this like 30 years. So a lot of the people that are doing it have just gotten into it. So that gave me some confidence.
The other thing is making sure that you have. Our house was very old and leaky, and that's sort of a perfect idea for geothermal because you can heat it up and it's not very expensive. If you were building a new house that was very tight, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to spend that much money on a geothermal system because
when you can heat the house with just
a wood stove or
having your oven on, then you don't really need to spend all that money on geothermal.
So a big building or a drafty old house, those are ideal places for a geothermal.
But there are, in terms of solar, there's all kinds of.
Yeah.
Amazed how many different solar installers there are. I'm sure geothermal will get there too.
Did you do both the solar electric and the solar hot water at the same time, or did you try one system?
No, those are totally separate. We actually did the solar electric first, about a year ago now. And we weren't really planning on doing the solar hot water. We thought we might wait several years to think about that, but then, was it VPERG was offering this a good deal in the Montpelier area, so we figured, well, maybe now's the time to do it. So yeah, it was separate.
How do you go about looking for it? How do you know to look around for these deals or these?
It just went through Efficiency Vermont. They seem to have a lot of links and things, so it was mostly just web searches to see what was available. And a lot of the installers, once you get in touch with the installers, they know all about it, so they really take care of for the solar systems, both of them. The installers really took care of all the paperwork for the incentives and everything, so that was useful.